leading the nation in school communications. Award-winning D93 News starts now.
Hello and welcome to D93 News, presented by Farm Bureau, Bonneville County. We are less than a week from Election Day. Election Day coming up on November 8th, next Tuesday.
D93 has two things on the ballot. One is the renewal of the Supplemental Levy, and the other would allow the district to use savings from the Black Canyon Bond for other projects in D93.
We had a really good conversation about just how critical the locally controlled Supplemental Levy is during our October D93 Live. Scott, that question came from someone. She says she's new to the area. And if you're new to Idaho, you're probably coming from a state that funds education at a higher level. And if you're from another area in the state,
let me jump in there, Phil.
Go ahead.
If you're coming to Idaho from another state, you are definitely coming from a state that is more well funded on a per student basis than Idaho is. We have ranked at the bottom for the last 2 to 3 years. If you're coming from Utah, then sometimes we trade places with Utah. But anywhere outside of Utah and Idaho, we're always at the bottom on per pupil funding.
But within that, the supplemental levies vary around the state as well. So like up in Coeur d'Alene, if she came down from Coeur d'Alene, their funding, they might have more funding because they have more locally controlled dollars. And we've kept our supplemental levy pretty low considering the size of our district. Talk about how that plays into all of this as well.
Yeah, so you do see I think the most equitable way to look at school funding is on a per student basis. It's really how many dollars do you get per kid, because ultimately those number of kids drive how many employees we have. And so within Idaho, we see a ton of variation in that. We see it right here in our community between District 93, District 91, where again, their supplemental levy goes much farther than ours does when they have $1 million more in their supplemental levy, but 3,000 fewer students. It just stretches so much farther. And there's other places in the state that are like that. And then there's some places like us, like Jefferson School District, that really operate on a shoestring. And part of our challenge with both us and Jefferson, candidly, is our taxpayers pay more to support our schools than, say, our neighboring district does. But those dollars don't go as far because we have a bigger student population. Plus, we have to use those dollars to pay towards bonds because we're a growing school district. We've had to build new schools where if you're in a district that's not growing, you don't have that bond debt. And so now patrons can afford to pay more towards supplemental levy. So just a lot of inequity across the state when it comes to that kind of funding.
Now, Scott mentioned that we are one of the lowest funded districts in the lowest funded state. Well, we did some investigating, and it turns out he was right.
That's right, Phil. Out of the 172 school districts and charter schools in Idaho, D93 ranks third in state funding per student. And this isn't a golf thing where the lower the number, the better the score. There are only 2 other districts in the state that receive fewer dollars per student. The locally controlled supplemental levy helps. When you factor that in, the D93 ranks 7th in per student funding.
That's a big difference, but 7th out of 172. Ouch. I can see why Scott says we're operating with a shoestring budget.
Now, Election Day is this coming Tuesday. The polls open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can find more information on our website.
Well, literacy is one of our cornerstones, and Rocky Mountain Middle School is doing their part to help promote reading and literacy. This
is really cool. The school now has a library that can be accessed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The Idaho Commission for Libraries granted me a $3,000 grant. And so with that grant, we have to do a community outreach something. And so I decided to put a little library at Rocky Mountain Middle School because the closest little library is either at Rigby or at McCowan Park. And so there's nothing like in this area. And so we have a ton of kids that walk, and I thought it'd be fun to get the little library. Yes. So I'm gonna have Felix hold it. Okay. So this is actually the little library that I just purchased on Amazon, but I registered it through the Little Library Foundation. Mr. Wright's construction class at Technical Careers High School actually put it together for me.
Awesome.
So that was huge. And so once we can get it in the ground, then it's just going to be an active little library. And I have Hope Squad kids helping me put it in the ground. So from Rocky Mountain.
Great. That's really cool.
Yeah.
The library is located on Iona Road across the street from the PLC building.
Good location right there. Well, the D93 fall sports season has come to a close, but not before another D93 athlete received Athlete of the Week honors from Sportsline.
Eric Moon caught up with the two-sport star and hero of the Civil War.
A moment to remember forever, a game-winning field goal in the Civil War. But for Hillcrest Thomas Ensley, that may not have happened if it wasn't for a missed PAT earlier in the game.
I think we sort of needed to miss that PAT because otherwise I don't know if we would have had the drive to be able to take it back and to get the extra points that we needed. Moss pulled me aside right before right after the kickoff, and he said that you're going to kick the game-winning field goal. We're going to stop it here. We're going to drive it back, and you're going to kick the game-winning field goal. To be honest, I was pretty nervous because it was mainly riding on my shoulders, but I did what I could. I did what I was supposed to do with some help and some encouragement from some of the other boys, and we were able to win.
It is Ensley's first season as a kicker, but he's played soccer for 15 years, which has helped him succeed in both sports.
Definitely playing soccer for as long as I have has taught me how to kick the ball in different ways. You know, for soccer you need all parts of your foot, and especially when you need to hit like hard shots, which helps in football. You know, learning that technique. And being able to hit the ball in certain ways, because sometimes you have to hit it higher if you want to get the onside, or maybe lower if you want to just make it fly.
So with the playoffs coming up this weekend, he's ready to go.
Hopefully we can go all the way. It should be nice because I didn't get to do that for soccer, but that's all right. It's a different sport. It's a different kind of beast. So I'm fully prepared for it.
Didn't go like we had hoped in round one for the state football playoffs. Volleyball Bonneville rallied, to bring home the fourth place. And then we have a special feature that we're going to shoot thanks to our partners, the Idaho Transportation Department, Shift Idaho campaign. We're going to catch up with a former Hillcrest Knight who was playing football before I started with the district and is still playing football for the BYU Cougars. We're going to talk to him Saturday over at Boise State. A lot of things happening right now. Of course, the big election next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday is the big election. Like I mentioned before, you can find the information on our website. You can go to Bonneville County Elections to see where you vote. Many places where you can find that information.
And we'll have a special D93 Live Monday night at 8 o'clock. Make sure and watch that and ask any questions you might have so we can address those so you can make a more informed decision. Well, that's going to do it for us.
We'll see you next time on D93 News.